Let's be honest, no one wants to be called stupid, but sometimes silence is stupidity. Sometimes inaction is stupidity. And sometimes being too nice, that's the loudest form of it. So let's cut through the fluff. This is not about shaming. This is about waking up. Because if no one told you before, I will. Here are 6 signs of a stupid woman, and it's time we stop pretending they're not real. If you're shrinking just to fit inside his world, you're not in love. You're in denial. There is this dangerous narrative women are sold, this idea that compromise is love. But when that compromise turns into contortion, when you find yourself becoming smaller, quieter, less you, just to be palatable to someone else, that's not love. It's self-erasure. A woman who bends so much she breaks is not strong. She's sacrificing her essence to make room for someone who doesn't even deserve her full self. And here's the truth that no one wants to say out loud. When you do that, you're teaching someone how to love a version of you that doesn't even exist. Too many women call manipulation passion because no one ever taught them the difference between intensity and intimacy. So when he yells, they say he just loves hard. When he controls, they say he's protective. But what they don't realize is that manipulation often wears the costume of romance. And by the time the mask slips, it's already too late. Your self-worth is tangled up in his mood swings, your happiness tied to his approval. That's not passion, that's emotional imprisonment. A smart woman sees the red flags and runs. A stupid one paints them white and stays. And staying doesn't make you loyal, it makes you lost. And let's talk about potential. That word, that myth, that lie. If you're holding on to a man for who he might become, while he continues to show you exactly who he is, you're not in a relationship. You're in a fantasy. Potential is a dangerous drug. It gets you high on hope, while reality keeps dragging you through hell. You convince yourself he just needs time, while time is busy eroding your spirit. Growth is beautiful, yes, but not when it's only happening in your imagination. Love isn't about waiting around for someone to maybe rise. It's about walking beside someone who's already standing tall. When a woman settles, she betrays herself. She might not even realize it at first. It starts small. She lets the little things slide. She quiets her instincts. She excuses behavior she would never accept in a friend. And over time, those little betrayals pile up into a mountain of resentment. But by then, she's already too deep, too entangled, too invested. And society will clap for her. They'll say, look how devoted she is. Look how patient she is. But what they won't see is the woman behind closed doors, exhausted, numb, questioning everything. That's not love. That's emotional labor dressed up as commitment. It's tragic how many women wear their suffering like it's proof of their love. They confuse endurance with devotion. But surviving a toxic relationship doesn't mean you're strong, it means you've forgotten your worth. Somewhere along the way, women were taught that staying is noble, that leaving is failure, yet choosing themselves is selfish. But what's selfish is expecting someone to carry the full weight of a relationship while they're being slowly crushed by it. A smart woman knows when to fight for love and when to walk away for peace. A stupid woman doesn't know the difference and she loses herself trying to make it work. Love is not supposed to be a battlefield. It's not supposed to drain you, confuse you, or make you question your value. But a woman who hasn't done the inner work will mistake chaos for chemistry. She'll think the roller coaster is romantic because stable feels boring. She's addicted to the high of the chase, the rush of making him stay one more day. But here's the brutal truth. If love feels like survival, it's not love, it's trauma in disguise. And if you're constantly proving your worth to someone, they're not your partner, they're your audience. And the performance has to end. There's a silent war happening among women. And it's not always obvious. It shows up in side eyes, subtle jabs, withheld compliments, and the unspoken competition we're told is just how women are. But let me tell you something. That's not nature. It's conditioning. A stupid woman buys into the myth that another woman's success threatens her own. She believes there's only room for one at the top, so she fights, gossips, undercuts. all to feel taller by cutting someone else down. But tearing down another woman doesn't make you powerful. It exposes your insecurity. It reveals a deep fear that you are not enough unless someone else is less. The media, culture, even childhood upbringing have sold women a lie that they must be the prettiest, the skinniest, the most desired in the room to be valuable. So instead of uplifting one another, women are taught to see each other as rivals. A stupid woman clings to this narrative. She'll look another woman up and down, not out of admiration, but to assess the threat. She won't say, "You look amazing," because in her mind, giving praise is giving away power. But a truly powerful woman, she doesn't hoard compliments. She gives them freely, because she knows another woman's light doesn't dim her own. Competition among women often stems from scarcity thinking. The idea that love, attention, opportunity, all of it is limited. So if she wins, you lose. If she gets the job, you failed. If she's admired, you're forgotten. But this is a scarcity trap, and a stupid woman falls right in. She thinks life is a zero-sum game. But life is not a single spotlight. It's a damn solar system. There's room for all of us to shine. A smart woman understands that collaboration is the new power play. She sees value in building circles, not walls. And she surrounds herself with women who elevate her, not ones she secretly hopes will fall. Let's talk about envy, because no one wants to admit they feel it. But here's the truth. Envy is just unspoken admiration wrapped in pain. A stupid woman sits in that pain and lets it poison her. She'll talk behind another woman's back, dismiss her achievements, minimize her hustle. Why? Because it's easier to hate what you secretly want than to face your own stagnation. But what she doesn't realize is that envy is a mirror. It's showing her what she desires but hasn't pursued. Instead of using it as fuel, she uses it as fire and burns bridges that were never threats in the first place. There's a difference between friendly competition and insecurity-driven sabotage. One uplifts, the other destroys. A stupid woman can't celebrate another woman's win because she sees it as her loss. So she stays stuck in comparison, obsessing over someone else's chapter 20 while she's barely started her own story. She measures her life against curated social media highlights and wonders why she feels behind. But instead of turning that mirror inward and asking, "What can I improve?" she points fingers outward. She tries to dim the light of others so hers won't seem so dull. That's not strategy, that's self-sabotage in disguise. And then there's the smart woman, the one a stupid woman calls fake because she smiles too much, gives too freely, walks too confidently. But that woman, she's done the work. She's not competing, she's creating. She sees another woman's success and says, "Yes, her winning shows me what's possible." She knows that aligned women are unstoppable, that sisterhood is a force, that supporting other women doesn't make you weak, it makes you wise. But to get there, a woman has to unlearn the toxic patterns. She has to face her own shadows. Because the only thing more foolish than fighting other women is thinking you're powerful when you're at war with your own kind. Validation, that quiet craving, that hidden hunger. Most women won't admit they need it, but you can see it in their eyes when the room doesn't notice them, when the compliment doesn't come, when the applause goes elsewhere. A stupid woman builds her entire sense of worth on the opinions of people who barely even know who she is. She scans faces, looking for approval like oxygen. She lets the outside world define her inside value. And here's the harsh truth. When your worth depends on other people's validation, you will live your entire life on a leash. She posts the picture and then waits, not for her own satisfaction, but for the likes. She chooses outfits based on what others will say. She dulls her voice in meetings to avoid disapproval. She waters down her truth so she doesn't offend. Her life becomes a performance and the world becomes her stage. But guess what? No matter how well she plays her part, the audience still changes. One day they'll cheer, the next they'll boo, and the moment she stops performing, she thinks she's nothing because she never learned to clap for herself when no one else is watching. A stupid woman hands over the pen of her story to people who haven't earned the right to hold it. She lets friends, lovers, strangers, even critics on social media decide who she is. She gets high on compliments and crushed by criticism. She thinks love means being liked. She thinks approval equals success. But living like that is exhausting. It's a never-ending chase and no finish line. The people pleaser becomes the prisoner. Because when your identity is shaped by others, you forget the shape of your own soul. Let's talk about the price of that validation. It's not free. It costs authenticity, it costs peace, it costs self-respect. Because the woman chasing approval always compromises something. She says yes when she means no. She laughs when something hurts. She tolerates nonsense just to be accepted. And she calls it being polite, being easygoing, being chill. But what she's really being is erased, little by little. And the worst part, she doesn't even realize it's happening. She just knows she feels lost, anxious, disconnected from herself, from her purpose, from her power. A woman who needs constant validation has never learned to validate herself. She doesn't trust her own voice, so she needs others to echo it back to her. She doesn't see her own beauty until someone else points it out. She doubts her decisions unless someone else agrees. That's not confidence. That's dependency. That's fragility wrapped in a pretty exterior. And it breaks the moment someone withholds approval. But a powerful woman, she walks into the room already knowing who she is. She doesn't need anyone to say she's enough, because she decided that already. What separates the wise from the weak is simple: the source of their worth. A stupid woman chases approval because she hasn't done the deep work of becoming whole. She thinks someone else's yes will fill the void. But no external voice can heal an internal wound. That wound demands truth. It demands solitude. It demands the strength to look in the mirror and say, I choose me, even when no one else does. Validation is addictive, but self-worth, that's liberation. And until a woman learns to validate herself, she will always be at the mercy of those who don't even deserve her energy. Avoiding conflict may look like peace on the surface, but underneath, it's a storm. A woman who avoids conflict at all costs isn't preserving harmony. She's silencing herself. She holds back her truth, swallows her anger, smiles through disrespect and calls it grace. But let's be real. Biting your tongue until it bleeds is not maturity. It's fear. It's fear of rejection. Fear of being left alone. So instead of saying what needs to be said, she plays small. And every time she does, she trades authenticity for approval. And that cost is far too high. She thinks that staying silent makes her strong, that walking away from a confrontation is a sign of wisdom, but in reality it's avoidance. She's avoiding the discomfort of confrontation, the possibility of disagreement, the vulnerability of speaking her mind. And it doesn't just happen with strangers or co-workers, it happens in her closest relationships. She avoids telling her partner what's really bothering her. She avoids confronting a friend who crossed a line. She even avoids her own thoughts, stuffing them down, hoping they'll disappear. But they don't. They fester, they grow, and one day they erupt, not with power, but with bitterness. Avoiding conflict doesn't make you easygoing. It makes you invisible. A stupid woman will sit in situations that hurt her, stay quiet when she's misunderstood, and apologize when she's done nothing wrong. She calls it keeping the peace. But whose peace? It's not hers. She's sacrificing her own comfort to preserve someone else's. She becomes the woman who always agrees, always compromises, always puts others first. And slowly she disappears, not physically, but emotionally, mentally, spiritually. She's present in the room, but absent from her own life. The stupid woman fears being labeled dramatic or difficult, so she learns to suppress. She convinces herself it's better to say nothing than to risk conflict. But silence is not safety. In fact, silence in the face of harm is surrender. When a woman loses her voice, she loses her power. Conflict, when done with intention, isn't destruction. It's clarity, it's boundaries, it's honesty. A strong woman knows how to express without attacking, She knows how to speak her truth without losing herself. And more importantly, she knows that discomfort is not the enemy. Disconnection is. What a stupid woman fails to realize is that by avoiding conflict, she's not just protecting others. She's abandoning herself. She's telling herself that her needs don't matter, that her feelings are too messy, that her pain is too loud. And that conditioning runs deep. Maybe she was raised to be agreeable. Maybe she learned early on that love was conditional, that good girls don't make waves. But here's the problem. Waves are where change happens. Waves are where truth lives. A woman who doesn't create waves eventually drowns in her own silence. And over time, avoiding conflict creates deeper consequences than the conflict ever would have. Resentment builds, relationships rot from the inside out, communication dies. And that woman, she becomes angry but doesn't know why. Sad but can't explain it. She feels used, unheard, and unseen, but can't quite name the moment it started. Because it didn't start all at once. It started with one unspoken truth. One buried feeling. One time she said it's fine when it wasn't. And now she's a stranger to her own voice. A stupid woman avoids conflict to keep things from falling apart, never realizing that silence is what's breaking her. Playing small is one of the most dangerous habits a woman can develop, and it's so subtle, she doesn't even realize she's doing it. It starts with the way she enters a room, carefully, quietly, afraid to take up too much space. She tones down her excitement, makes her ideas sound like suggestions, apologizes before she even speaks, not because she's unsure of what she brings to the table, but because somewhere along the way, she was made to believe that her brilliance was too much, too loud, too bold, too intimidating. So she shrinks, and she calls it humility, when really, it's self-betrayal. This is the woman who knows she's smart, but downplays her intelligence so others won't feel insecure. She has big dreams, but she hides them behind safe goals. She's the one who doesn't raise her hand, even though she knows the answer. She lets others take credit for her ideas in meetings. She plays the supportive role when she should be leading, and deep down, it kills her. Because she knows she was made for more. But she's afraid that stepping into her power will make people uncomfortable, and worse, that they'll leave. So she chooses small. Repeatedly, quietly, desperately. A stupid woman confuses likability with value. She thinks the more agreeable she is, the more worthy she becomes. So she bends her boundaries. She avoids making others feel less than. She waters herself down because she was taught that being powerful means being alone. But what she doesn't realize is that playing small doesn't make people stay. It makes her disappear. And one day, she'll look around and realize that no one really knows who she is. Not her partner, not her friends, not even herself. Because the version she showed them wasn't real. It was a mask, a soft, edited, acceptable version of her true self. She becomes so used to minimizing her gifts that it becomes her identity. "Oh, it's nothing," she says when someone compliments her work. "I just got lucky." She refuses the spotlight, not because she lacks talent, but because she's afraid of judgment, afraid of standing out, afraid that if she truly let herself be seen, someone might try to tear her down. And here's the tragedy. In trying to protect herself from being attacked, she ends up attacking herself every single time she dims her own light to make someone else feel comfortable. There's a lie women are taught early, that it's better to be liked than respected. So the stupid woman chooses likability. She nods when she disagrees. She laughs at jokes that offend her. She pretends not to notice when she's dismissed or interrupted. All because she wants to be accepted. But what she sacrifices is her voice, her truth, her power. And acceptance built on pretense is not real, it's conditional. It disappears the moment she starts telling the truth. A powerful woman doesn't chase comfort. She creates impact, and she understands that the right people will never be threatened by her fullness. And the world? It needs women who are full. Women who speak without shrinking. Women who walk into rooms without apologizing. Women who know their worth so deeply they refuse to beg for recognition. But that kind of power doesn't come from permission, it comes from a decision. A decision to stop performing, a decision to stop pleasing, a decision to stop living half a life. Because playing small doesn't protect you, it paralyzes you. And the longer you live in that cage, the more your potential rots. Not because you weren't capable, but because you kept choosing comfort over courage. Every single time. There is no crown in martyrdom, yet so many women wear their suffering like it's a badge of honor. They bleed for relationships, sacrifice their joy, pour endlessly from an empty cup, and then call it love. But let's be brutally honest. If you're the only one fighting, the only one compromising, the only one carrying the weight, you're not strong. You're being used. A stupid woman believes that endurance equals loyalty, that if she just holds on a little longer, gives a little more, proves herself enough, he'll finally change, finally choose her, finally become what she needs. But love shouldn't be a test you're constantly trying to pass. She tells herself that staying through pain makes her noble, that swallowing her truth to keep the peace is maturity. But what she's really doing is abandoning herself. Piece by piece. She trades her needs for his comfort, her voice for his validation, her dreams for his convenience. And then she wonders why she feels so empty. Because she's building a home in someone else's life while hers is falling apart. That's not love, that's self-neglect. And no amount of romanticizing sacrifice will make it any less damaging. The stupid woman confuses chaos with passion. She believes that real love must be messy, painful, dramatic, so she stays in toxic patterns and calls it commitment. She celebrates survival instead of peace. But surviving someone isn't proof of love. It's evidence of emotional poverty. If every conversation is a landmine, if your self-worth fluctuates with his moods, if you're constantly explaining your value, then you're not in love, you're in a war. And in war, there are no winners, just women who forget who they were before they started fighting for someone who was never fighting for them. There's this illusion that ride or die means staying no matter how much it hurts. But loyalty becomes delusion when you're loyal to someone who's not loyal to your healing. A stupid woman keeps pouring into a broken cup, hoping her love will be enough to fill the cracks. But you can't save someone by losing yourself. You can't fix what someone refuses to even acknowledge. You can't build a future with a person who can't even take care of their present. At some point, love must look like boundaries, like distance, like walking away, not out of hate, but out of deep, soul-saving clarity. The truth is, a woman who's afraid to be alone will tolerate anything just to say she's not. She'll justify mistreatment, she'll reinterpret red flags as quirks, she'll call gaslighting miscommunication, all because the thought of being without someone seems scarier than being with the wrong one. But here's the truth, there's nothing lonelier than being in the wrong relationship. You lose your voice, your peace, your fire. And for what? For the illusion of companionship. A smart woman understands that solitude isn't punishment, it's preservation. And sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is choose yourself, fully, unapologetically. A stupid woman sacrifices herself at the altar of a relationship and calls it devotion. But real love, healthy love, doesn't demand that kind of death. It doesn't ask you to shrink, to suffer, to beg. It doesn't cost your sanity. It doesn't drown your identity. It nourishes, it empowers, it lifts. If it drains you, if it cages you, if it silences you, it's not love, it's control. And the longer you stay, the harder it becomes to remember who you were before it all started. Because sacrifice without reciprocity is not strength, it's surrender. And a woman who constantly gives without receiving will eventually forget that she was never meant to settle for pain dressed as purpose. So let this be the moment you choose clarity over confusion, power over submission, self-respect over validation. Stop living a life of compromise where your worth is decided by anyone but yourself. Stop staying in relationships that drain you, situations that silence you, and patterns that diminish you. Know that the strength to walk away, to set boundaries, to demand the respect you deserve. It is your birthright. You were not made to shrink. You were made to stand tall, to thrive, to lead with your voice, your heart and your mind. The world doesn't need another woman playing small, hiding her light, or sacrificing her soul for someone else's comfort. The world needs you, whole, powerful, unapologetically yourself. Remember, real love doesn't demand you lose yourself. Real love finds you when you've already found yourself. And until then, choose you, always, because you're worth every ounce of respect, every bit of love, every moment of peace. And it starts with one choice. The choice to stop being stupid and start being free.